Now entering Nerdist.com.
Jackie Cation, Laurie Kilmartin. Jackie Cation, Laurie Kilmartin. It's the Jackie and Laurie Show. The Jackie and Laurie Show. It's the Jackie and Laurie Show. The Jackie and Laurie Show.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Laurie Kilmartin. I'm Jackie Cation.
I'm Laurie Kilmartin.
Are you tired?
I am tired.
So am I. I'm punchy as all hell.
Tell me why you're tired, and I'll tell you why I'm tired.
Okay. Well, since we've been on the air, I have performed
Holy
at my
shit,
high
this
school.
is a long story. Okay,
Yeah.
go.
And yeah, settle in, open up a water, chill yourself out. Here we are in the Nerdist Studios, above the loudest, happiest Dan Harmon fans you've ever met in your whole wide life.
Hooray.
Hooray. Anyway, but today what happened was I drove from the Nevada City, California Film Festival, where I was doing stand-up comedy.
That's cool.
With Bamford and then Andy Kindler and
That
Ian
sounds
Abramson.
like a great gig.
It was
Where's Nevada City near? Is it near Tahoe?
It's not near anything. It's near itself. It's in the REI Mountains. No, they should be called the REI Mountains. They're actually the Sierra Madres. But I want the national park
You didn't
system.
hike there?
No, this doesn't hike. But I'll say this is that so I drove there because I was like, you flew into. They were like, we'll fly you to Sacramento, and then you'll have to rent a car and drive another hour up towards Yuba City and Reno.
Yeah,
Or-
that's kind of near Tahoe.
right. So what I
Getting
did
there.
was, I was like, well, I'll just drive there
whole way?
Yeah, the whole way, and then I'll just drive back, and then I'll have my car. And I regret that.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was Andy and Ian Abramson got picked up from the airport. I'm sure Kate Berlant and John Early got picked up because they
Wow.
were also there. But it was an
You're
adorable
just
little
listing more
brigadoon.
people I'm jealous of right now
There's-
that had this gig.
I was jealous of them because they were. I think they were. I think they were advertised greater than I was. I don't. I could be jealous if you wanted me to.
Yeah.
You're going to find some bitterness and bring it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the fuck this podcast is about. What do have you been sitting on
Have
shit?
have you been sitting on
God.
bitterness? Jesus, Jackie.
Oh my God.
Rise to the occasion.
Well, okay.
you
We're
living-
taping this Sunday night,
Sunday night after a big day.
and I was curled up around my son and like spooning like a mother should.
Right.
And he's loving it, and I'm loving it, and he's telling me about his hopes and dreams. And then I say, oh, I got to go tape a podcast. Let me go get your grandmother in here. And so crickety, shuffle down the wood floors comes the 70-year-old Slippers. And I left the two of them. When
Right.
She was
Spoon
complaining.
or be spooned? Were they just yelling spoon or be spooned at each
No,
other?
who cares? She didn't like the pajamas he was wearing. That was the argument I left on.
Oh,
I'm like,
interesting. Interesting life choice. Because, here's my thing about pajamas.
right.
Nobody sees them. Nobody sees them. So sad, too bad. Here's what, here was my beautiful, you were beautifully having a beautiful moment with your son and you
Right.
had to leave.
Right.
I was having a beautiful moment with my husband. He bought at the dollar store a dozen plastic Easter eggs because it's Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And he hid them all over the house.
Aw,
And in every single plastic, and I've found 7 of them so far.
that's cute.
And in every Easter egg is a heart. He has drawn a little piece of paper with a heart. Not that it's a competition, but somebody is clearly fucking winning. Because it isn't me. I did nothing for Easter for him.
I console myself that most comedians are miserable and you're an anomaly. Because if most comedians were happy like you, I
Right.
would kill myself.
Oh my gosh. Hopefully
Like
they are
the
not.
only
For
reason
your
I can
sake.
hear that is because I know,
You know that
you're the only
someone's-
one.
Right, that Jim Norton is somewhere weeping softly into a cracked mirror while he tries to blow himself. Yes.
That's him being happy, though.
That would actually be one of the happiest days of his life. And he's doing what he can. You were in New York again.
I was.
You're always in New York.
Delightful.
I'm so
Again,
jealous of that.
delightful. Yeah,
I
that is
wanna-
pretty sweet. You know what? I got to admit, that's pretty fucking cool.
It
that I
is
can-
really cool that you
I
can just
back,
go
like,
and do sets
once a
and-
month and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That's neat.
And I'm very grateful and happy that I have that
Yeah.
little opportunity.
It's so cool.
But I'm sitting in this, I went to a party yesterday. It was a
Hollywood party? Hollywood party?
Kind of, yes.
Oh, cool.
All right.
There you
So,
go.
but I can't say anything else. But
No, that's fine.
it was
Hollywood party.
Lots of
Think about Coke and bowl of keys. Do it. It's the 70s.
Yeah, Jackie, you got to update your references.
Guess was the last time I went to a Hollywood party, you guys.
A bowl of keys. That's like Fast Times, right? Yeah. Okay.
I think it's more Love Boat. I don't think it's.
What happened to Julie? And normally I have anxiety about these things because it's lots of couples, you know,
Oh, right.
and people.
Oh, right.
People paired off, and
You're like, ugh.
yeah, like I didn't
Yeah.
go to our office or show Christmas party last year because I was like, I can't take this shit
Can't face
anymore.
it. Can't
and
face it
holidays,
for a minute.
it's worse.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But somehow yesterday I was there and everyone was paired off, almost everyone, and I was like, I'm okay. You know, I'm just different.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks when I was in New York, last time I was in New York, I'm sitting in this coffee house, Manhattanville Coffee. It's on. It's the beginning of the gentrification of Harlem. Are these little tiny coffee houses that
Thank
are popping
God
up?
it's
that are-
begun. Thank God. Where will else with man buns?
Yeah.
Where will they go?
Yes, man buns are coming, and so it's like on 141st and Edgecombe, and
Okay.
it's very.
It's a really nice coffee shop?
completely twee, and it's everything.
Okay.
It's everything. It's all.
Is it everything?
Columbia students, and
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
that whole thing, and I was by myself again, but I don't know, I just sat there for a couple hours. Morning pages, Artist Way pages are
Yeah.
supposed to take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But when I don't have anything else to do, they take like 2 to 3 hours, and I just write 3 pages, but the whole, like, I write a sentence and I daydream for 40 minutes. It fucking takes forever, but I love it.
Oh, do you?
It's just letting my brain go wander and waste, and
Okay.
not having to take care of anybody and pick shit up at the grocery store, and
Right.
It's
hours of just
really
you
heaven.
getting to just
Yes.
just wallow in
And-
mellowness. Yeah.
For the longest time I've been alone, I mean, my whole life, just huge patches of aloneness, but I've not been good
Sounds
with
like
it.
comedy. Yep.
And it always makes me unhappy, and then I start masking it by eating or whatever. And
Yeah.
I was just noticing, like, I don't mind now. I'm like, and is that bad?
No,
am
it's
I
a
dooming
sign that he's
myself
coming.
to be alone?
Is that too much? Is that the horrible
my
Harlequin
God.
romance? It means that now you don't care he's going to show up,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, fuck you, because because people would always say that.
That's
Don't
how I
worry-
will greet my
it's-
soulmate. Is fuck you.
Fuck you. What happened? It's a TikTok, buddy.
Yeah.
And but people would always say that about boyfriends or men or
Right.
partners or whatever. It's like when you'd least expect it. And that is not how I found the online dating situation that,
Yeah.
because guess what? I expected it every time. Every time I would go to a Starbucks and stare at another Latin professor from CSUN or who's some dude who lived down in the OC who had driven up for
Oh
no
my
reason.
God, no.
Because of my headshot. The only thing I had that was digital was my headshot. So on my internet dating thing, which was 12 years ago now, I had to write underneath the only digital picture I had of me, which was my headshot.
Yeah.
Professionals were involved. I look something like this. So, because I can't.
Here's the thing, like, I'll tell somebody that this happened a couple times now. My name's Laurie. I'll say
Yep.
that while we're messaging, and I'm a comedian, and
Mm-hmm.
there aren't a lot of comedians named Laurie, and so you can kind of figure it
no.
out pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's a picture of me in my user profile,
Right.
so you can go, oh, that's her. So I've been Googled a lot before a date.
Yeah.
To where several times guys
They're
have,
watching
like,
sets
known,
and-
listening to podcasts.
Oh,
and
Christ.
I'm like, you know too much already.
Right, right.
It's,
you shouldn't do that. That's
I don't know. Do I
Marie
have
had
to
the
just
same problem?
Just use the initial L and instead of Laura? I don't know what to do. That's
Yeah, I don't know
just-
how you can fix that.
But Maria solved that problem, right?
She just stuck it out,
Yeah.
My favorite story was when she was in the Huskow, she was in the psych
Yeah.
ward, and the psychiatrist Googled her. And
Oh,
was
God, I know.
was watching her
So
set while she
unbelievable.
was in a session.
Right.
And she was like, no,
Yeah.
not cool. It's that's complete. Here's what I did. I went and performed at my high school.
Right.
And did an assembly, high school assembly
For high school
400
students?
For high school students on the Friday morning.
And
then I had lunch with the mayor.
as a graduate?
A graduate, yeah. And they
Okay.
kept saying over and over again, high school graduate, 1983. And I was like, why out loud? Why over and over again? And then the next night was the show.
Yeah.
And the show was in the same place, the South Milwaukee Performing Arts Center. And everyone, my brother and my dad, the church they go to, they announced it. So everyone from church came.
God.
All of my cousins came. Everyone I went to high school with came.
That is awful.
Uh-huh. And then remember there was a juggler?
Yes.
And so it was me, juggler, Mary Mack, Tom Clark, and then me again. And the next day I'm talking to my Uncle John, who's 91.
Wait, this gig just happened?
This just happened.
Okay, this sounds like another gig you had.
No, it was the one I was telling you that it was going to happen.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The last episode, I was like, we can't put the juggler in charge, so I have
that's
to
right.
host.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I hosted, and the next day, of course, my Uncle John was like, I like the juggler the best.
Oh, God.
And I was like, thank you, Uncle John. And I'm going to steal your hearing aid. I don't know.
You can tell
But-
he's blood when he says something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, they're all hilarious. And my dad and my brother were like, we're not going to come. Is that a problem? And I said, it's not my Little League game. Who gives a shit? There's going to be 500 people there. It's going to be fine. But my favorite thing that happened, and I am not the hero of this story, Laurie Kilmartin, is that I tweeted that a couple of guys who had beat me up in junior high were coming to the show. They had each messaged me separately on Facebook. And they said, hey, remember? And I was like, yeah, I remember Jimmy. I remember. And anyway, so you're coming
You
to the show.
were beaten by boys in junior high school?
I was a little bit of a tomboy, and so I would mouth off to boys. And so one time, a bunch of boys pushed me into the creek in the middle of winter, and it had frozen over. And so...
As cricks will do.
As cricks will do. It wasn't nothing but a crick. Anyway, it was creek. Oh, crick. And so it was soaking wet, and... what's his face? It was 40 years later. I don't have to say his name, but
Fucking say his name. Say it.
Brian Anderson. What the fuck is that attitude?
How many There's like 50 Brian Andersons that listen just to our podcast.
So Brian Anderson punched me in the face and split my lip, and I fell
What
into
a
the
dick.
creek. Well, they were bad, and so I went home, and my stepmother said to me, "I hope they look worse." Anyway, so because Nancy Cation, nothing but supportive,
A lot of nurturing.
So I said that Brian Anderson was going to come to the show, and this other guy, and I get a tweet back from Marianne Schwartz, and she said, "Funny you would mention bullying." I was so mean to Marianne Schwartz in 5th grade. I was the worst.
Shit.
Oh, shit is right. And I was like,
you were that girl.
oh, I right back at her. Right. And the thing is Marianne Schwartz was she wasn't particularly nice. And this other woman these girls weren't particularly nice to
Yeah.
me, but I was also super not nice to them.
Wow.
So I was like, delete. And then they all came. Marianne Schwartz is married to a guy who works for the FBI.
Oh, my God.
Katie Bachman was there with her husband, who's a Milwaukee Police Department guy and a Milwaukee cop. And then Holly Abonic was there, I think, with her fellow. I don't know, whatever. A bunch of people.
So is it water under the bridge?
Yeah, because it's got to be 30 years now, right? So everybody. So it just made me laugh that they were all there.
I don't know that I would be able to forgive Jackie Snyder for ostracizing me in 4th grade.
Well, you'd have to look her face to face.
Yeah.
And go, I can't fucking care anymore. That's what you'd have to do,
Right.
Which is what Marianne Schwartz did with me. And she was like, it's good to see you again. And then we all went for a beer over at downtown Milwaukee, South Milwaukee, Moran's.
Sounds like it was a very healing show.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So
Brought
healing.
a lot of closure.
A lot of closure.
to relationships you'd forgotten about.
That's exactly what I did. I'm so sorry to laugh.
Listen, there are so many young comics in New York City.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You got to. Is just everyone doing stand up now?
Yeah, and they're funny.
Of course they are. And
you
good
know,
looking.
and they're
Fit.
they're not all good looking, but they're.
Made Kyle laugh.
Don't worry. There's some
Normal
people
looking?
we could identify with.
Okay.
But and reflecting what's happening in their generation. It's fascinating. It's just like, you're just reminded like, oh, I was that person and I
Right.
was talking about my shit. I was talking about AOL and the old fucking comics were like, what's that? And they fax their avails and
Yep.
it's
the faxing of
life
emails.
goes on and now we're those old people and
And we're looking at them.
I think they're actually much nicer to us than I felt like I was to
generationally?
the old ones. Yeah, because I remember just going, get off stage. It's my turn.
Oh, really?
Like I was. Yeah,
You were like, I need.
Yeah.
But
I
I'm
felt
like
like-
that with every comic. I am not. I am not necessarily just like that with new comics. I'm constantly pacing, going, yeah, you're great. In other news, give them the
No,
light.
I never stopped feeling like it's my turn. That's true. But I definitely felt like, when you start and you're like, oh, you dinosaur, you're talking about stuff and young people don't know what you're saying,
Right.
Get me up in front of this audience because they're mine. And
Yeah.
now,
And now, the thing is, I'm telling you something. I can massage an audience from Jafar, man. It's
well, I think we got forced to follow the audience a little bit too. And I
Yeah.
think like those older headliners, like the old improv headliners kind of they were this age, like early baby boomer. They were taught, their whole audience was white early baby boomer.
Yeah.
Pretty much it was like an echo chamber. And so they all
Right.
just sort of aged together and then all of a sudden they were gone.
and then they were gone. And well,
and we sort of our audience kind of changed a little bit, like then comedy collapsed and then it was alt stuff and then you sort of had to follow these new rooms and it kind of forced you to be like
a little
your
more
crowd
flexible,
a little bit.
more
Yes,
flexible in
definitely, yeah.
what you were writing about. And
Yeah.
for sure. I think
Yeah.
because I think you're right about that late '60s, early '70s. I mean, there was the Chitlin circuit, and then there was the white comedy clubs,
Right. But
And
I'm
then-
talking about the guys that were headlining, mostly men that were headlining, but there's some women
Yeah.
when we started.
Right.
So like
Do you
late
ever-
80s,
did you,
early
Did you
90s.
know Lou Deck? Do you ever know
No,
Lou Deck?
uh-uh.
Oh, a Florida guy.
Okay.
And he
This guy's never left Florida. There's some.
Oh, he was a Comedy Store guy. I think he went back to Florida
Oh,
eventually.
okay.
And
I
then,
didn't know him.
Yeah, but like, I'm trying to think of like the people that are older than us. I mean, there's Shandling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's like all those. Did Gary? Now, someone told me a story that Gary Shandling didn't do stand up before he wrote for Letterman. He wrote for Letterman and then started doing stand up.
I
Have
don't
you
remember.
heard that?
I
I've
don't
never
remember.
heard that.
I've been listening to a lot of Shandling stuff lately.
Yeah, because he passed.
Yes.
So it's I loved what the Improv put.
What'd they put?
They put just a quote about nice people. Nice finish first, or so. He had said
You
something
don't know
about-
where the finish line is.
Yeah, you
you
don't
think
know where the-
nice guys finish
Right.
last. Yeah.
The Laugh Factory, as always, when anyone dies.
Oh my God!
It makes me want to cut myself. They always say he's making God laugh, and I'm like,
First,
Okay.
definitely wasn't a Christian or Jewish. I mean, he didn't believe that traditional stuff anyway.
I don't even think he was a Laugh Factory comic. That's the other thing, is that he better go to your comedy club.
If you're going to exploit it on your marquee,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that person, yeah,
Flappers can
That
put
person-
if I die, Flappers can put my name on their marquee.
forever.
How about
they could
that?
have the Jackie Cation chair where people would sit and talk about you.
Right,
It
they
would
can
be-
have that
There would be like
corner
a
booth.
memorial. Oh my God, me in the Yoo-hoo room. I don't care. It could be a memorial.
It could
mic.
be anywhere. I don't. We're doing that show. Is that this week or is it next
We're
week?
doing. Oh, I want to talk about that too because
That show's crazy.
We're you and I are doing a show. Laura House has
It's Laura House's show.
Yeah, and Laura's great. So
Yeah.
she put you, me, Maria Bamford, and Karen Kilgariff on
a
the
show
same
together.
show in the Yoo-hoo
Yeah.
room with seats 40
60
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
60 people.
But
And-
here's what I loved because I noticed because I had this opportunity. Okay, so I see Laura's flyer.
Yep.
Aside from your name being misspelled, let's forget that happened. But,
it burns. It burns.
but she just had our last names. And
Yeah.
it was just like, that's enough, because this is a motherfucker of a show with Kilmartin,
It's crazy.
Kilgariff, Bamford, and Cation, and
Yeah.
House. You have a show. It wasn't 5 ladies doing comedy. It was no mention mention of gender. And that's
And not even our first names.
yeah, we were treated like guys. Like,
Yeah.
it was exciting.
It was just comics.
yeah, exactly.
And you're like, this is going to be the craziest fucking show in the world.
Yes. Okay. So then, so I'm on a show tomorrow night that's a women's show, and it's
Okay.
being marketed like that heavily.
Okay.
And it's cool.
I love a freak
I
show
like
as much as the next
comics
person.
that
You know
are-
why? Because
yeah.
I need stage time.
But I like the comics that are on it. So it's fine.
Okay.
Whatever.
good.
It's fine. And if it gets people in, I get it. I loved how the Punchline did all women headliners in
Oh, yeah.
March. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, in one sense, I get it. But I wish it still feels like ladies' night.
Contrived.
Saturday, I'm at Hermosa. there's 10 comics doing 10 minutes or 10 doing 8 minutes. 5 of us are female. It's me, Kira Sultanovich, Jackie Fabulous, Christella, and Monique Marvez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's a super powerhouse lineup as well.
It wasn't like billed like anything. We just all kind of showed up, and then people started talking about it, and I'm like, all right, here come the top 4 predictable jokes. Okay, but then it was just kind of cool to be like, there's
just doing
stand-up parody. It feels good to not be the only one, or it felt good to be way. Not special, not the female.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is the freak show vote? Those freak shows. I call them that because that's what it is, right? You're booking something very specific. It's going to be all ladies. It's chick shtick or whatever you want to call it, and that's what you're hoping to use. And so whenever anyone gets mad at me for calling it a freak show, I'm like, aren't you booking it as a freak show? And they are.
The attraction is that the comics are female, or that they're Hispanic, or that they're black. It's
or
not
they're gay,
that they're funny and they're this.
Yeah. And so just, it'd be great.
Know.
And Laura House, my favorite thing Laura House said about this show, she said, should I book a couple of people who could bring audience members? And I said, just tell them Maria will be there. And Maria will fill the room. And the rest of us will just show up.
Long as
it'll be fine.
Put Bamford up there in a good font so people could read it. I think we're good.
Everyone can read it. It's going to be fine. You'll fill the room. There's 60 seats. It'll be $5 a pop. Barbara Holiday will be very pleased. It'll all work out. So everyone, get the meatloaf. It's lovely. Anyway,
there's this... So Jill Soloway Jill Soloway's the creator and director and producer of Transparent.
Okay. Oh, right.
And so she wrote...
Translucent? Isn't your mom watching Translucent?
My mom's watching Translucent, yeah.
Other people have watched Transparent, but not Mrs. Kilmartin.
She wrote this really cool piece in Medium about... how she was when she was very young, she dodged a Bill Cosby situation. He actually offered her and a friend a ride home, and for some reason they decided to take a taxi. Maybe there's some
sixth sense about, hey, I don't want any part of this dude.
The gift of fear, that Gavin DeBecker thing. And then, but then she was talking about, she did an interview with this Canadian DJ who's like accused of rape, and I don't know. It was, you know what, I don't have any commentary besides it was a really good article. And it is very, she starts talking. It's definitely like feminist studies sort of language, which part of me is like, but I think that's from me being raised when I was raised. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to tie this to is like one day this week I did a show. With we'll talk about this too with Bobcat and Caitlin McGill. They have a show, right?
Yeah,
so that was great. We'll talk about that great show on a second thing. But one of the comics was there, Claire O'Kane, who's a San Francisco comic.
Okay,
and she's just talking about female stuff, and it was very like, you should be talking about it. That's you and that's your life. And the same feeling I had when Carmen Esposito she has that chunk on her period.
Yeah.
Where I just think, God, the way I was raised as a comic.
Right. I always cringe at it, but I think it's gutsy stuff.
Yeah.
But it probably isn't.
But I wonder how many times I have said I had an idea for a joke and my subconscious is like, no, you're not allowed to talk about that because men don't want to hear about that. And it seems like the next generation of female comics do not have that thing ingrained in their head.
They have no fucks to give. No fucks to give. They will talk about
they're free.
And we built that road, Laurie Kilmartin. No, but last night in Nevada City.
We built some part of a road, but our road is still full of all those rules.
Right, we also rebuilt the wall. Anyway, very sad. But because I can't seem to get to the road. I keep blocked. But last night I tried to do this new bit about perimenopause.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked. Granted, I was in the oldest, whitest town in Los Angeles, in California, Nevada City, which is, I think, where Mill Valley people go to holiday. It's like, if there's not enough white people in Mill Valley, let's go to Nevada City and bring our dogs and have somebody look at a crystal. Two stores. two bead stores. What kind of town can support
I love
two
bead stores.
Do you
I
love
fucking
a bead
stores
store?
like that. Old Sac used to be like that. Old Sacramento. They had a club
the
called
grossest
Blossom.
name of any part of town ever. I will always say that.
Our state's capital, Jackie.
Right.
Oh, they have tons of bead stores
Yep,
and chakras
kites.
and all that
Sure.
shit. Fucking
There's
love that
a great
useless
place to
stuff.
get Okay, so
But you're talking about perimenopause.
right, and I've
Which is
got
the least sexy
the least
word.
sexy word ever, and
Yes.
I don't ever say perimenopause because it's the least sexy, and it's not funny. So I just call it middle-aged lady time.
I like
because
that so much
I can't.
better.
It's just more
I mean,
approachable.
I also think that's cool. Like you still want to entertain, right? And
entirely.
Yeah, you don't.
If there's something,
you don't want
allow me to refer to myself in the third person. But if there's something I want to do, it's I need to entertain.
I think you don't want to be, or maybe you don't want to be clinical for clinical's sake, just to shove
No.
a term down someone's throat. You do
Yeah.
want to be. You want to get laughs.
I want to get laughs, and
But
I don't want to
it's-
make anybody. I don't want to freak anybody out.
Yeah, right.
But now you're talking about this next generation. There was, that roast battle at the Comedy Store
Yeah.
that they have. So I'm sitting around with another comic who goes to a lot of open mics, and he goes to that roast battle.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about Heather Maruli. Have you ever met her?
No, I don't think
she's
so.
one of the new young comics coming up, and she's in the roast battle.
Okay.
And she's in the battle with this guy whose name I never got.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Probably Josh. Come on.
Sure, a guy named Larry, and but they're roast battling each other, and one of his first cracks is about her body and about her weight, and he just slams her because it's a roast,
Right.
And she is like, "Well, you liked it enough to fuck it." Right back at him at this roast battle because I guess they had hooked up one night, and then they're going.
true. That's
right.
great.
And so they're going back and forth, and she's just massacring this guy. And at one point, I guess she said, "You think you're such a great comic, but the tightest five was in me." Boom! I was like, "Holy shit! Somebody sewed that on a pillow."
That's
it was
awesome.
such a great line, and I was like,
That's
"I don't know that
awesome.
I would have." I don't know that I would have had the guts to ever say such a thing.
Oh my
right? 'Cause
God,
it's
I'm going
dirty
through the
and-
Rolodex of comics I've slept with. No, I could never be in a roast battle with any of them.
Oh my God.
Wow. That's,
that would be a lot.
That's cool.
And so he tells me that story, this guy I'm hanging out with, open mic guy.
Yeah.
And the other story he tells me, because I think I define sexism differently than
Yeah.
the new young comics,
Okay.
So I guess this woman got really drunk at an open mic over at the Liquid Zoo.
A comic or
a comic?
Okay.
Yeah, one of the young comics, and then one of the other comics, a guy, offered her a ride home, and so the next day, my buddy talks to her, and she said, and she's in her early 20s or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so she said, "Well, he got really gross," and I was like, "How gross? Was it horrible? What horrible thing happened?" Well, I guess he drove her home, and then he wanted to come in and have sex. And I guess
Oh.
he was super subtle about it. And he said, "I'd like to come in and have sex." And she said no. And he asked again. And then she said no. And then he left. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound like sex. That sounds like just people trying to get laid. That's just a guy asking twice. I don't think that's horrible. Is that horrible?
The way you described it isn't,
Yeah.
but that might not be accurate.
Well, and then it does get horrible, but
Okay.
only because we're in the 21st century. Because I guess a half an hour later, he FaceTimed her and he was jerking off.
ew.
That's where it all falls apart. But the initial thing, right? Because she said that was all that happened,
Yeah.
and then he left. I mean, how many times?
I don't know. It depends. I think it depends on how the guy's making you feel, the tone of voice. If you feel threatened,
Right,
versus
right.
somebody who's just, someone who's drunk and dumb, like, hey, it's
No, she was
like
drunk and
when
dumb.
you were
Yeah.
talking about the guy whose name we're not going to use, who asked you multiple times when you guys were in a condo, and
On
you
New Year's Eve.
cheerfully
Yeah.
said no, and he's like, all right, like he was just giving it a good shot.
Right, and then he did it 3 times all week.
Right.
Like he's like, and then New Year's Eve he was like, "Come on, let's just," and I'm like, "No, go to your own room, weirdo." And then he went to his own room.
Right.
And
So that the way you present that, it sort of seems adorable in a way.
right, and in the moment I was
And
uncomfortable.
plus, I know who you're talking about, and I'm like, oh, that guy's harmless.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is what that feels like. It doesn't feel like sexual abuse. It feels like a guy trying to get laid.
Right.
And me having to just say multiple times, "Well, it's not going to happen." I understand you're running it up the flag.
So you're saying, I know what you're saying,
But I don't-
Do you think though we were raised to our expectations are so low that to us, if we escape without being raped, we're like, oh well, it's not that bad. You know,
That's what I'm asking you.
I
That's
think
what it
so.
feels like a little bit. Is if we escape without being
We're-
actually forced into making
Yes.
out with, or some dude groping, or some horrible like another level, or the actual rape or the actual physical assault.
Were we to be able to live like a week without all, and this is like such a term. This is a term of this age, microaggressions. But were we able to live a week without that, you know, and notice, because we've just been worn down, you know. So there's so much shit you and I don't notice that happens constantly.
Right.
And
The sexism, some of it that I think younger women get, it doesn't bounce off of them or wash over them.
right.
Or it bounces off of us, and it washes over.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know which way's right. Like I don't know. Like should we have been?
Should I have been
standing
mad?
up madder earlier? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like would that have counted or?
I want it to count. No, I don't know.
You know, but each generation has their breaking point, right? And so our generation, we, however, we marched female comics up to a certain line, right?
Yeah.
And then they come in and go, you guys. You know, you're putting up with some real bullshit.
Right, and then they
You know?
move the
and
line.
then they move it forward, and we're like, well, I didn't even think you could go
like
that
the suffragettes, you guys.
Exactly.
So it's like the women who came before us.
It's
they
history.
pushed the
It's
line.
female
That's-
history.
It's
Yes.
sort of the history of all sort of human advancement.
But when
And-
you see, you know, when all of a sudden, like you're the second wave now, like you're not the young wave anymore, and you're like,
And so when I hear what happens, there is part of me that goes, and I don't like this feeling, but
Yeah.
there's part of me that's like, oh, come on, walk it off. It's not that big of a deal.
Same here.
Which doesn't
That's got to
feel
be
fair.
our age.
Yeah, that's
got to be our age.
It's got to be a generational thing
Yeah.
because I don't want to be a jackass.
Yeah.
Because I also want to be supportive
Totally.
and go, oh yeah, guys. I mean, he can keep it together.
Yeah.
and and talk.
But
to
you know, and then
like a gentleman.
you go back another generation.
Gratification.
Chrissy Hind, right,
Yeah.
was
Oh, right.
was raped and was like, well, you know,
I was
put
kind of
my
asking for it.
Yeah, it's like no, but you
Yeah,
and
she's
I
out of
are
her
appalled.
mind. Yeah.
but her generation, maybe that's the
Yeah, because
best.
she's 15 years older than we are.
Yeah.
Isn't she 15, 20?
Something like that.
Something like
I'm
that.
just saying.
Yeah.
You couldn't say she isn't a feminist in a way, in the way that she's lived, you know. But
Yeah.
your brain.
It does feel generational.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Fuck.
Do you want to plug the lady of the week?
Sure. Why don't you?
Oh, I did. That's
Yeah.
right. Because I just worked with her, Mary Mack.
Super funny.
Who grew up 40 miles from Maria Bamford in northern Wisconsin. And one of my favorite things she always says on stage in the long set is, I grew up in the woods. I forgot to tell you. Anyway, so... yeah, but she's a
But
tiny
I think
woman.
we should always, from now on, when we talk about a female comic, how many miles away from Maria Bamford she grew
Okay,
up, that
fair
we need
enough.
to include
Excellent.
that
And
information.
so next week's interesting. We'll do it in kilometers. And so, but Mick is she's such a great comic, and she does so much. It's like she also plays the mandolin sometimes because she's a master's degree in music.
Wow.
And so she does this kind of quirky family kind of stand up, and then she will also just play these weird songs occasionally.
Yeah.
And but she's so gifted, so talented.
Yeah.
She was on Last Comic Standing.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
super funny, super
Yep.
smart. Mary
Yep.
Mack, you guys. Mary Mack Comedy
Check her out.
on Twitter or whatever.
M-A-C-K.
Yeah, M-A-C-K.
That reminds me, like, I read another study about how when women use vocal tricks like the
Oh, right.
or when their
You sent
voices
me that.
go up at the end.
Oh, yeah, because that's what you
No.
want out of a doctor is when someone says, so do you want to get the surgery?
But that's what you're going to get as a doctor. And that doctor will still be really good at her job. That's
Right.
just the way she talks. Like, and there's guys that talk like that too. There's guy comics I've seen do that same sort of.
growly
I've read it
voice thing at
also
the end?
called NPR voice, where it's that sort of awkward spacing in between words. Like Ira Glass kind of embodies it, you know?
Oh, right.
But it's kind of that and kind of that thing where you go up at the end like this.
Yeah.
And
I've noticed that before.
women are punished more than men when
Yeah.
when they do that kind of vocalization. And
Okay.
I see that in stand up too. I see it's weird. Like I was wondering, I was thinking like do you have to, like, I've always felt like for a road room, part of how you control the crowd is vocally.
Yep.
And they need to be afraid of you, afraid that the consequence of them talking to you. And part of how you control them is through your voice. And,
Okay.
And so if there's there's also someone might have a style or a timing where their voice is going to go up a little bit. And is that person losing control of the audience, or is somebody like Maria is a master so that she can have like a very soft voice, but be in complete control of an audience.
Right.
I don't
know.
necessarily have a huge theory here. I'm just throwing this out there
Yeah,
because you and I both have low voices.
We have pretty low voices and very strong personalities on stage. So, which I think comes from doing
Just stage
those
time.
weird one-nighters.
Yeah.
And I think some of that stuff. And some of the new alti comics are used to the polite attentiveness of theaters and stuff like that.
Which is still startling to me when a crowd is polite and attentive.
Right.
I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
Right. Are you guys cool? It's it's the other night, I guess, there was in Nevada City, the people of Nevada City all know each other. There's 11 people and their various pets. And so they will talk to each other during the show. And they'll be like talking about what they're hearing or other things like that. And it's completely absurd.
Yeah.
And I guess it happened during Andy Kindler's set on Friday night. And so he had to shut him down a little bit and deal with it. And Maria was nervous that that's what was going to happen on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So, but they were an entirely different audience for Maria.
Yeah.
Where they knew what they were seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think because what I've noticed when Maria gets, when the audience starts to get chatty, Maria gets softer. She'll start
Interesting.
whispering her jokes.
That's what Betty Davis, I think, said to do with children when they're being really loud is to start whispering, because then they
They have to lean in.
Yeah.
And then they have to shut up and try to hear what you're trying to say to them.
I've never found that worked for me.
No, it's not anything I want to do.
Anyway, I get louder and I'm like, what the fuck? I
Right.
get very
Hey, guys, wrap it up.
confrontational
And, a
and
little
do
bit.
macro aggressions
Oh my
to
God,
the audience.
which we should talk about. Margaret Cho last night, night
Oh, right.
before,
So
was
you
at the
just telling me
Express.
about this, but
Okay.
I'm like, don't tell me on the podcast because I don't know yet.
Yeah. So TMZ broke it, and then I saw.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then I saw something she posted on Facebook, Margaret Cho, about how in the middle of her set, the club, the Stress Factory in New Brunswick,
Right.
New Jersey, which I've never played.
I've worked it once.
You've worked it once?
Yeah.
They turned her mic off, and they flipped on the lights.
Wow.
Because I guess some woman got up and was sort of charging the stage and stuff, and cops might have been called and all this, weird kind of stuff. Where the weirdest thing is I don't understand why they would have cut the mic. You can turn on the lights if there's some sort of disturbance, but you got to let the comic talk.
Sounds like a panic in the back of the room. It
Yeah.
sounds like a panic at the board.
Yeah,
Just
right.
like,
So
if you
cut
got
the
someone
mic
charging
is
the
so
stage.
weird. Yeah, it's. I guess she was pressing. She was being
does.
Margaret Cho.
You don't go to Margaret Show and expect.
And you're not seeing Fluffy.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what you
yeah.
think is happening.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to a Margaret Cho show, it's
Yeah.
going to be about rape. It's going to be about feminism. It's
Yeah.
going to be about being Asian. It's going to be about being white. It's going to be
Just what you want to hear in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
right. Well, it turns out, I guess there was some shouting
Wow.
about, hey, we don't want to hear this. And you're like, well, and I think Margaret at one point said my favorite line, which was, none of you are getting a dime back.
Oh,
Something like that,
sweet.
which made me laugh.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody gets their
That's
money
why she's
back.
a headliner, motherfuckers.
Exactly. Follow that, bastards. And have they ever had to turn off the lights or turn off the mic?
No.
And because of unruliness?
No, I've never had that much of an unruly situation, and I've never actually had a club care that much what was happening to me.
They're like, oh, we're all going to be in the office.
Yeah, I've had
just
people
do your time. We'll
stepping
leave.
on the stage, and just I'm like, all
You've
right,
had people get on stage with you?
Yeah,
Hecklers.
Yes.
Or audience
Just, like,
members
drunk.
who wanted to.
It wasn't like they were attacking me, but they were drunk and wanted to try to get up on stage. And
Okay,
kind of-
please tell that story. Where did that happen?
I don't even remember a specific time.
Right.
It's happened several
So
times.
many times.
Where I've just sort of talked them back off stage.
Nice.
Yeah. No, they
Did you
always
mock
leave me
them
alone.
off
I feel like
stage,
the
or-
club goes, oh, okay, I'll come back in an hour. Like the club owner just leaves for an hour when I'm on stage.
Do your time.
Yeah.
And we're going on vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm playing Kirkland this week, and Angela and Dennis usually go on vacation the week I come. They're like, we know that you're the golden retriever of comedy. It's going to be fine. It's all going to work out. But one time somebody did charge the stage when I did this old club long time ago, and for some reason my sister was in the front row, and she tripped the woman.
Oh my God.
Which I thought, well, that's a little overkill. I could have probably dealt with that. And the only other time was back when I first started. I had the weirdest gig at this club in Madison. After the club I worked at burned down, there was a new club. And the guy let me do 2 minutes before the MC. It was dumb. I had to stop doing it because I didn't really ever get to. But anyway, so I was trying to bring.
You didn't grow from that experience comedically?
No, I didn't. I didn't grow. I was so irritato, Magnus irritato, and so. But this one guy was super drunk, and he came toward me, and I was, you know how the stage is not tall. Sometimes, you're just like a foot and a half taller than the audience. So this guy was about 6'5".
Yeah.
So we were eye to eye. And I was like, sir, the show's about to start. You should probably sit down. And he goes, and I said, sir, you're pretty drunk. You might want to just have a seat or maybe not watch the show. And he's like, drunk. And I said, then what's that look on your face? Down syndrome? And at that point, then they did cut the mic.
He was smart enough to get that joke, which means
the audience
no
got that
guns.
joke. He did not get that joke. But the club owner came and got me off the stage.
Oh shit! So I just
might have been the last 2-minute bit that I did before that.
I was just reminded a couple years ago I was at the Comedy Connection in Rhode Island, I think.
Partay.
And so the audience you're on stage and it's like a square, so there's to the left of you is a line of people, in front of you is a line of people.
Okay.
So to the very left is a guy, a white guy with black hair.
Yep.
And he's looking up at me. So he's right up front, and he's just licking his lip, like he's trying to do make out or something, just like
hilarious.
that kind of stuff. And he's sitting with his pregnant girlfriend. Okay.
Ew.
She doesn't notice or thinks it's cute or something.
Thinks he's being hilarious.
So this is happening, and it's distracting, but it's not enough to call somebody out on it.
I love what the fuck has to happen for you to call somebody out.
Because I have a whole room.
Right, you got to run.
Of people from Rhode Island who are almost retarded. So you I can't take time from these animals out here to deal with this animal up front.
You know, Rhode Island.
So so I kind of did a little back and forth with him, and he just wouldn't stop doing that, and it was such a weird thing to. It wasn't like he was verbally saying anything where you could slam
and nobody
him.
else could see it.
It was just it was just kind of unnerving.
It's the worst.
And every time it took me out of the moment constantly. So whatever show they got was me autopilot saying jokes to make this show end.
Yeah.
So the show ends, and I tell I'm like, oh, that guy was just awful, and they're like, okay, well. We'll seat him further back for the second show. And I go, what? Well, yeah, he's staying. He liked you. So he stayed for the second show. But the favor they
put him
did
in the
me
dark?
is they put him in the dark so I couldn't see him.
What the?
Yeah. And then he was a dick, allowed like a regular asshole dick.
Just yelling crap.
Yes. And then he could be dealt with and was kicked out.
Holy.
Yeah.
That is a great, horrible Dackler story.
Yeah.
That's a damn nightmare. I've never, first of all, how flattering was it that he liked your show so much?
First of all, here's why I said he had black hair. Because on closer inspection, it wasn't hair. It was tattoo. Tattoo of blackness all over his head. Like
his head was tattooed black?
His bald head black.
So super white guy.
Yes,
Black
and then
head.
that's when I remember he got more and more scary when I realized I'm like, that's a fucking tattoo, his head.
Oh my god!
And I So then I probably acted more
Why do I think that you've been holding out on me and you have like 17 stories that are just
I don't remember them
right,
until...
please, as we go along, Laurie Kilmartin, please let me know. Oh, do you hear the blessed silence?
But I was glad that I didn't have a high voice that night.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad for my low tones.
Low tones. Wrap it up.
Do you want to have to develop a voice so that you can,
shut people down?
People down? Is that, that's
you
a
watch
debate. Like, is that important enough for you, or are you? Do you want to have that roughness to you, or do you want to stay sort of precious a little bit? I think that's something some comics have to think about, because I think if they're only working like rooms full of respectful audiences, that they're gonna.
You can be
is
softer.
That bad? You can grow that way, and you can continue to have that kind of career. Maybe that's not bad at all.
It isn't bad, but I'll tell you. See, because I have that problem where if I get to stay in Los Angeles, I soften a bit, and the writing is just it changes. And if I'm on the road a lot,
totally.
If I'm on the road a lot, I get a lot tougher.
Yes,
a little more aggro.
Yeah,
and I'm more than willing to tell people to shut the fuck up. And it isn't. I don't. There's part of me that is proud of that aggro, that tough
that
comic.
You're glad you have it in you.
There's part of me that's proud of it, but I don't like that person. I kind of like the nice person that I can be if I'm in Los Angeles, where there's an audience that wants to hear whatever weirdo premise I'm coming up with.
And where you're safe to go, be in the moment, and not have to worry about that fucking table back there and this bachelorette party and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about New York is like every time I'm there, I have to remember this lesson of the audience really wants to be entertained. Yeah. Like, I feel like here as a comic, if I have one spot that night, which is kind of what you do, maybe if
because you're driving around.
Yeah. I'm not going to waste it talking to the crowd. I'm not going to, I'm here to work out jokes.
Yeah.
And in New York, they're not here. They're not there for you to work out your fucking little jokes. They want a good show.
Oh, they want you to go to the vault?
Yeah. No, not necessarily vault, but they want you, like, I just forgot, like, I got to have more of a personality a little bit more in New York, especially when
they want the personality bigger.
They want a personality up front.
They want to know that they're seeing a show.
Shove your jokes in. Yeah.
And then you could even do new material then? Or do you think?
Sure, whatever you want. But I always go,
you just got to own
it. I got to do these 23 jokes in this 12-minute set, and I forget, like, this is in LA. I could do 3 jokes in this 12-minute set. I just have to make sure I entertain this audience right in front of me.
That's interesting. Is you think that you sort of like when you get on stage in New York, you have to take the stage a little stronger,
differently. Yeah,
and then you can do whatever material you want.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah,
and in LA, you could just get up and noodle around a little bit, and people are cool with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you can get up and immediately be after a high, just start telling a joke, and people go with you on the awkwardness of it. Like, they know everyone's
they're
on board.
In show business. I get it.
We're all comics.
we're all trying to do. I'm interested in doing stand up. What does it look like?
They know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And in New York,
they're usually more civilians.
They're not indulgent. They don't care what you're doing. They paid $35 to get in, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they took a train, or they're here from Switzerland or whatever, and they want a fucking
clubs
show.
In New York. I usually do the Alti rooms in New York, in Brooklyn, and in the Village.
Yeah.
So, though I do love the Stand, right? That's what it's called. The Stand. I got to do it a bunch last winter, and I'm just jealous as all hell that I miss it, because it's a really great room, and that audience is really nice, and the staff was incredible.
The staff was great. Yeah,
it was
they're
really
amazing.
Cool.
And they have this. When you walk up, when you go to the stage, there's a teeny dip. Like, there's a little.
There's like a divot or something in the floor.
Yeah. So
because it's from the 1800s. Because
no, it's not a divot from the floor. It's just a way that they paved it, I guess. So it's a little divot before you get up on the stage. It's not. Weird. It's just kind of around the stage, but. So I always trip once, and because
you have to remember that it's there.
Yeah,
or you're not doing it for effect.
No.
Oh no!
But I'm a klutz normally, and then I have my my vanity contact lenses where neither of them gives me enough vision, but I don't have to wear reading glasses in front of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so my middle vision isn't great, and so I do. There's several times, So I've tripped, and one time I fell really hard, but I get back up, right? I do a lot of yoga, man. I can fucking get up.
Yep.
And but
it's recovery.
The last time I fell, or last time I kind of tripped on the way up, Monroe. I think his last name's Martin, I think. But he's very funny, but he's like, "Are you okay?" And I realized, I must look like a grandma now. It's like a grandma tripping, because 10 years ago, no one gave a shit. I fell when I was pregnant. No one fucking cared. And now I'm I'm tripping a little on the way to the stage, and it's like, oh, we don't want to lose you. It's like, I'm alive.
A national
It's okay.
treasure, Laurie Kilmartin. A national treasure. Yeah, I don't. That whole thing about picking material. I mentioned the vault. It's when I did the South Milwaukee gig. Mm-hmm. I went so deep into the vault. I almost did it. I forgot to do this. I was asked by a couple of people. They're like, "Oh, did you remember to do the snowmobile from 1997?" I'm like, "No." Did you remember to do the biking and bowling bit from 1990? No, because those are too deep in the past.
Yeah,
and I wasn't willing to listen to my first album.
Oh God,
just so that I could go.
Yeah,
and have
There's
the
no
material for
worse
the old people.
Feeling than having to listen to it. Your CD to remember material.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to forget it for a reason.
Right. Just keep writing. Keep writing. Can I just screw around and keep writing? But it was, and I was scared. I was scared to do stuff like the new stuff about my dad because everyone knew him, and I was scared to do this stuff. I was a little scared to do the political stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's Wisconsin, and everybody in my small town is freaked out because one of the Catholic churches is turning into a mosque. And
interesting.
There were 6 Catholic churches when I was a kid, and now there's 2. And so the assembly is fine. The first thing I ask the kids is, how many of you guys thinking of moving out when you graduate? And 90% of them raise their hands.
Wow.
And I'm like, do it. Get out. There's no reason to stay and be fucking George Bailey. And a joke no one got.
I got it.
Sure, you got
It's a
it.
Wonderful Life.
But the 400 kids didn't. And that was fine. And then I was like, and then I said, how many of you guys thinking about joining the service to get out of town? And like 10 kids raised their hands. And I said, well, let me tell you what, my dad did that. My dad joined the Navy, was in the Marines for 6 years. He did that to get out of town. And this is what he told my brothers, which is, you can just move. And he's like, you want to be of service to somebody, that's fine. But if you want just out of town, you get a job shoveling sand anywhere in the world for $2.50 an hour. You don't need to join the army or whatever. And the teachers kind of tensed up a little bit on that.
You just made our country weaker with your advice to
Well,
our
I support the
potential
troops.
soldiers.
I support the troops finding other work. That's an old joke. Anyway, so but it was but hilariously, comedically, there was a Q&A, right? I did what I could to keep them entertained. It was about 45 minutes. And the Q&A was entirely, do you know Tosh? Do you know Jesselnick?
No.
Do you know Fluffy? Do you know
Fluffy? Really?
Yeah. Do you know Ron White? I was like, Ron White?
That's
But
nice.
why do they know Ron White?
He's all over Comedy Central.
Well, and then Jim Gaffigan and Kevin Hart. And
any female comics?
I had to mention Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman.
Whoa.
And, I was like, because I just wanted no women. Yeah.
Judas.
They didn't. Right. They didn't. Nikki Glaser. Nothing.
Wow.
There was. And I was like, well, they're on Comedy Central, but it was great. But then in so we're wrapping it up, and in the back of there's 2 guys who are sitting in the way back, and they kind of remind me of me. And one of them goes, I was like, I got 2 more questions. I got to go. Y'all got to go to class. And one of the kids, he goes, who you voting for? And I was like, whoever's on the Democratic ticket, because everyone else is batshit crazy. And the teachers froze. And the kids were like, ooh, you said batshit. And I was like, yeah, I swore in front of 16-year-olds who get the internet. It's going to be fine. And I was like, because the internet was just invented. And then the kid next to him asked what I thought of Trump. And so I did my Trump joke, and then I wrote a new Trump joke right in that moment because I was twitchy about the whole political thing. And then that ended and it was good. And then the old people, because they were literally and the woman who booked me, I went to high school with Rachel, she was like, hey, the crowd was a lot younger than it's been in forever. And I was like, you know that my aunt was there who's 87 and my Uncle John, he's 92.
Oh my God.
And,
you come from long living people. That's nice.
Yeah, we're going to stick it out. Can't you wait? You can't wait. Mom's going to stick it out.
Oh.
But the weirdest thing is that but it was, I went so far. I did all these jokes from just I tried to go back in time and just do all these jokes that wouldn't offend anyone. But I did open with the mosque joke where I just told them to stop panicking about the damn mosque.
Yeah.
And it was just going to be lapsed Muslims 30 years from now. Like it was lapsed Catholics now. So it doesn't matter, right? And I don't know. Have you ever gone to your high school and done any of that?
No, I haven't gone to my high school and done any of that. But I was thinking, you were reminding me that this has nothing to do with what you said, except for that
Feel free to change the subject.
when I was, I don't know if this is true. I've just noticed this, like when I walk while I'm listening to a set, I seem to get more ideas than if I'm just driving and listening to a set.
Oh, interesting.
Now, this is just a thought, and I have no scientific evidence to back it up. But there is something called EMDR. Have you heard of EMDR?
I got EMDR done,
Okay.
man.
So
Tap,
you know
tap,
what it
tap,
is.
tap,
Yes.
tap, tap, tap,
So
tap, tap.
let me explain. They don't know
please.
your taps.
He doesn't, and Kyle doesn't
So
know
if
what
you've
it is.
if you've been through a traumatic experience, sexual assault or war, or whatever,
Sure.
They do this thing where they'll talk about it with you, and they'll have you talk about it, but my therapist, it kind of moves his fingers in a window washer or a windshield wiper direction, and your eyes follow the finger while you're talking about it. And something about the rapid eye movement while you're discussing it takes the shame away from the event and helps people recover.
Oh, interesting.
Much more than talk therapy. So,
Right.
and I did it through some stuff with my swim coach, and it kind of made it over. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah,
that and Paul
it healed it.
Gilmartin's podcast.
Mental podcast.
Mental
Yeah.
pod. If you can do mental pod, that's 90% of your recovery. It's it's a great podcast. But
It is.
But I was wondering, the woman who thought of this, who just thought of this idea, was apparently walking while she was thinking about something, and she was a therapist. So this is already on her mind, but she's thinking about something that happened to her, and she was doing that naturally with her eyes because of what she was looking at.
Okay.
This story is all mushy in my head, but and that's how she thought of it. And I was wondering if, when you're walking and you're moving your body, that's a way for, while you're listening to a set, is that a way for your brain to process it differently and come up with different ideas?
I'm going to try it now just because I just listened to my set from last night while
Yeah.
I was driving today, and I got a lot out of it. But I bet you, because I'd like to walk with my notebook then and listen to it because if I'm going to come up with, sort of tangential stuff, and
Right.
because otherwise I have to do a bit, 40 times or 12 times or whatever.
Right.
An undetermined amount of times.
When I was so last time I was in New York, I was like, I'd get on the train and I'd listen to a set on the train, and then I'd walk, I'd get off at 8th Avenue and walk to 3rd, which is a nice walk. It's like 20-minute walk to get to the stand. But I was listening to a set during that time, and then I don't know, I just started having a lot more ideas than I normally do. And listening to a set isn't an automatic thing for me. It's very painful.
Yeah.
Kyle's leaving. We're just alone talking.
Oh,
at
fair
Meltdown.
enough. Right. Kyle's like, it's late, you guys. It's super late, but we want to do the pod. We want to make sure you guys get the podcast.
So I'm just
I think it's an
wondering
excellent test.
if that's a thing where if your body's doing something it doesn't normally do while you're performing, which is walking, that you
at least like running lines or
will hear
running
it
bits,
differently.
running bits.
yeah,
because
because usually you're just sitting with your notebook right before you go up on stage.
And when you're listening to your set, you might be in your car, or you know what?
often
I bet
in
you,
the car.
You know what? Some people
Or sitting,
listen to their people
sitting.
who exercise. Sometimes
people
who are-
exercise to
who
their
are
sets.
These people,
Now that is fucking insane.
right? Listen to your set while you're on the treadmill or
No,
something.
no.
No.
I have to.
I don't know
escape.
anybody who does it.
I
but somebody's
pretend I'm
gotta-
a figure skater when I'm on the treadmill.
Oh, interesting.
Yes,
Can you
I have
skate
a
backwards?
whole backstory. This
Awesome.
pretend self I pretend to be because I can't bear being
Do you
on a
really?
treadmill. Yeah,
That's
I do.
awesome.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's so stupid.
Is it like the Ice Capades, or is it more like that?
No, I'm like I'm this tough.
It's awesome. Do it.
I'm the child of Irish terrorists. I can't. I'm going to ruin it if I tell it to you. But
Okay, yeah.
But it puts me in this mood where I can do stuff.
Okay.
On a treadmill.
Yeah.
But it's the only time I pretend I'm somebody else is
Right.
when I'm running.
I say
or jogging.
I'm a huge fan of playing imagination. Just to
Yes.
get out of it. Just
I'm
to-
is that LARPing? Am I LARPing?
You are not LARPing, but you could LARP. This is a sign that you could have LARPing in you. And I just want you to know. The weird thing about my when I went to my shrink, this is many years ago, we did EDM, and she did that thing with the windshield wiper,
Right.
with the finger moving
EMDR.
back, EMDR. And then I was also tapping my face.
Okay, I
So
didn't
it
do
was
that.
like follow the finger and then tap your face and then talk about horrible things that happened to you.
Yeah, it was something you
I
had
was
to do with
supposed
your
to let it all
fingers.
go.
Yeah, exactly. Did you feel like it did? Did it work?
She was one of the greatest. She helped me out a lot, and she was also like, "Have you ever thought of going? Have you ever thought about stop drinking?" And I was like, "No, I didn't think that was my problem." She's like, "You don't think that's your problem? Okay," and then we let it go, and then I got the second DUI. So I was like, "Oh, that might be an issue." So and then we left it at that. But and then I was in her. I think we're close to the end here.
Are we
what do you guys
close?
think?
Yeah, you're in an hour.
We're at an hour.
We're at an hour.
Do you want to wrap? Okay.
All right.
Say
so
thanks.
thank you. I'm Laurie Kilmartin.
I'm Jackie Cation. Thanks for listening to the show, you guys. We're gonna
Yeah, if you
we'll
have
be back.
a shameful experience, get EMDR. It'll really help out. Okay.
And have good sets.
Yeah.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.